Hello friends, in this session I explain different type of security attacks. Attacks is a betting on system security that derives from an intelligent threat. That is an intelligent act. That is a careful attempt, especially in the science of a method or techniques to avoid security services and violate the security policy of a system. So I start this session with security attacks. Attacks are classified as passive and active. A passive attack means is an attempt to learn or make use of information from the system without affecting system resource. Whereas an active attack means is an attempt to alter system resources or affect their operation. Now, I explain these attacks in brief. First is passive attacks. Means passive attacks are in the nature of spying on or monitoring of transmissions. The goal of the opponent is to obtain information that is being transmitted. Two types of passive attacks. First is release of message contents and second is traffic analysis. Now, I explain release of message contents. Means the release of message content is easily understood. A telephone conversation, an electronic mail, message, and a transfer file may contain sensitive or confidential information. We would like to prevent an opponent from learning the contents of this transmission. I explain these attacks with example. See in figure, we have three users like sender A, receiver B, and attacker C. Sender A and receiver B is connected via internet or other common facility. With the help of this connection, it's transfer a message. When transfer a message, C attackers read the contents of message from A to B. So it's known as release of message contents. Now I explain traffic analysis attacks. Means a second type of passive attacks. Traffic analysis is subtle. Suppose that we had a way of masking the contents of message or other information traffic so that opponents, even if they captured the message, could not extract the information from the message. The common technique of masking content is encryption. If we had encryption protection in place, an opponent might still be able to observe the pattern of this message. The opponent could determine the location and identify a communicating host and could observe the frequency and length of message being exchanged. This information might be useful in guessing the nature of the communication that was taking place. I explain this attack with example. See in figure, we have see three users like sender A, receiver B, and attacker C. Sender A and receiver B is connected via internet or other common facilities. With the help of this connection, it's transfer a message. When transfer a message, C. Attackers observe the traffic patterns of message from A to B. So it's known as traffic analysis attacks. Passive attacks are very difficult to detect because they do not involve any alteration of the data. Typically, the messages are sent and received in outwardly normal fashions. Neither the sender nor receiver is aware that a third party has read the message or observed the traffic patterns. However, it is feasible to prevent the success of these attacks. Message encryption is a simple solution to prevent passive attacks. Thus, the emphasis in dealing with passive attacks is on preventing rather than detection. Now, I explain active attacks. Means active attacks involve some modification of the data stream or the creation of a false stream and can be subdivided into four categories. First is replay, second is masquerade, third is modification of message, and last one is denial of service. First, I explain replay. Replay is involved the passive capture of a data unit and its subsequent retransmission to produce an unauthorized effect. I explain this attack with example. See in figure, we have C, three user like sender A, receiver B, and attacker C. Sender A and receiver B is connected via internet or other common facility. With the help of this connection, it's transfer a message. When transfer a message, C attackers capture the message and send the message again to B. So it's known as replay attack. Now, next is masquerade. A masquerade takes place when one entity plays to be a different entity. Masquerade attacks usually include one of the other forms of active attacks. For example, authentication sequence can be captured and replayed after a valid authentication sequence has taken place, thus the enabling an authorized entity with few privilege to obtain extra privilege by appearing an entity that has those privilege. I explain these attacks with example. Same figure. We have C three users like sender A, receiver B, and attacker C. Sender A and receiver B is connected via internet or other common facility. With the help of this connection, it's transfer a message. When transfer a message, C attackers C imagine to be a A. So it's known as masquerade attacks. Now, next is modification of message attacks. Modification of message simply means that some portion of a legitimate message is altered or that message are delayed or reordered to produce an unauthorized effect. For example, a message meaning allow ABC or John Smith to read confidential file accounts is modified to means allowed Fred Brown to read confidential file accounts. Means here we can see the content of message is changed. So it's known as modification of message attacks. I explain these attacks with example. See in figure, we have C three users like sender A, receiver B, and attacker C. Sender A and receiver B is connected via internet or other common facilities. With the help of this connection, it's transfer a message. When transfer a message, C attackers C modified the message and sent to B. So it's known as modification of message attack. Now, next is denial of service attack. The denial of service prevents or inhibits the normal use or management of communications facilities. This attack may have a specific target. For example, an entity may use all message directed to a particular destination, like the security audit service. Another from the service, denial is the disruption of an entire network, either by disabling the network or by overloading it with message. So, to degrade performance. I explain these attacks with example. Scene figure. We have three users like sender A, receiver B, and attacker C. Sender A and receiver B is connected via internet or other common facilities. With the help of this connection, it transfer a message. When transfer a message, C attackers disrupts service to A. So it's known as denial of service attacks. So in denial of service attacks, a legitimate user cannot reach to its service. Active attacks present the opposite characteristics of passive attacks, whereas passive attacks are difficult to detect. Measures are available to prevent their success. On the other hand, it is quite difficult to prevent active attacks absolutely because of the wide variety of potential physical, software, and network vulnerabilities. Instead, the goal is to detect active attacks and to recover from any disruption or delay caused by them. If the detection has a different effect, it may also contribute to prevention. Now, I explain what is a cyber attacks. A cyber attacks is an international misuse of computer systems, networks, and technology dependent enterprise. These attacks use malicious code to modify computer code, data, or logic, ending into destructive consequence that can compromise your data and spread crimes such as information and identity theft. A cyber attack is also known as a computer network attacks. A cyber attack is an abuse of computer systems and networks. It uses malicious code to alter computer codes, logic, or data and lead to cyber crimes such as information and identity theft. We are living in a digital era. Nowadays, most of the people use computer and internet. Due to the dependency on digital things, the illegal computer activity is growing and changing like any type of crime. Now, cyber attacks can divide it into two parts. First is web-based attacks and second is system-based attacks. Now, I explain web-based attacks. In this, first is phishing attacks. Phishing is a type of attacks which attempts to steal sensitive information like user login credential and credit card numbers. It occurs when attackers is masked as a trustworthy entity in electronics communication. Phishing is a type of social engineering usually employed to steal user data such as credit card numbers and login credentials. It happens when an attacker position a trust individuals tricks the victim to open a text message, email, or insert message, or we can say instead of message to modify it. The victim is then deceived to open a malicious link that can root the freezing of a system as a part of ransomware attacks, revealing sensitive information, or installing of malware. This breach can have distort results from an individual. This include identity theft, stealing of funds, or unauthorized purchase. Phishing is offer used to obtain to foothold in governmental or corporate networks as a part of a more significant plot, such as the advanced persistent threat, or we can say APT. In such a case, employees are compromised to gain privileged access to secure data, distributed malware in a closed environment, and to bypass security parameters. Now, next is spear phishing attacks. Spear phishing is an email aimed at the particular individual or organization desiring unauthorized access to crucial information. These hacks are not executed by random attackers but are most likely done by individuals out for trade sectors, financial gain, or military intelligence. Spear phishing emails appears to originate from an individual within the recipient's own organization or someone that target knows personally. Quite often, government-sponsored activities and hackers platforms perform these types of activity. Cyber criminals also carry out these attacks with the aim of releasing confidential data to prevent companies and governments. These attackers employ social engineering and individual design approach to effectively personalize websites and message. Next is well phishing attacks. A well phishing attack is a type of phishing that centers on high profile employees such as the CFO or CEO. It is aimed to stealing dynamic information since those holding higher position in a company have unlimited access to sensitive information. Most Welling instances manipulate the victim into permitted high worth wire transfer to the attackers. The term willing signifies the size of the attacks, and wills are targeted depending on their position within the organization. Since they are highly targeted, Welling attacks are more difficult to notice compared to the standard phishing attacks. In a business system, security administrator can lessen the effectiveness of such a hack by encountering the corporate message. So, staff to attend security awareness training. Next is malware attacks. Malware is a code that is made to silently affect a compromised computer system without the consent of the user. This broad definition includes many particular types of malware, software such as spyware, ransomware, commands, and control. Many well-known business, states, and criminal actors such has been implemented of and discovered deploying malware. Malware differs from other software in that it can spread across a network, route change, and damage remaining undetected and be precise in the infected system. It can destroy a network or bring a machine's performance to its needs. Next is ransomware. Ransomware blocks access to a victim's data, typically threatening deleting it if a ransom is paid. There is no guarantee that paying a ransom will regain access to the data. Ransomware is often carried out via Trojan delivery. A payload disguised as a legitimate file. Next is drive-by attack. A drive attack is a common method of distributing malware. A cyber attack looks for an insecure websites and plants a malicious script into PHP or HTTP in one of the page. This script can install malware into the computer that visits this website or become an iframe that redirect the victim's browser into a sites controlled by the attackers. In most cases, these scripts are confused and this makes the codes to be complicated to analyze by the security researchers. These attacks are known by drive-by because they don't require any action on the victim's parts, expect visiting the compromised websites. When they visit the compromised sites, they automatically and silently become infected if their computer is vulnerable to the malwares, especially if they have not applied security updates to their application. Next is SQL injection. SQL injection, also known as SQLI, is a kind of attacks that employ malicious code to manipulate backend database to access information that was not intended for display. This may include numerous items, include private customer details, user leads, or sensitive company data. SQLI can have disputing effects on a business. A successful SQLI attacks can root deletion of entire tables, unauthorized viewing of user list, and in some cases, the attackers can gain administrative access to a database. This can be highly harmful to a business. When calculating the problem cost of SQLI, you need to consider the loss of customer trust in case personal information like address, credit card details, and phone numbers are stolen. Although SQLI can be used to attack any SQL database, then Trojan often target websites. Now, next is cross-site scripting. Cross-site scripting is also known as XSS, is a kind of injection breach where the attacker sends malicious scripts into content from otherwise reputable websites. It's happened when an unsure source is allowed to attach its own code into web applications, and the malicious code is bundled together with dynamic content that is the sent to the victim's browsers. Malicious code is usually sent in form of pieces of JavaScript code executed by the target's browser. The exploits can include a malicious executable script in many languages, including Flash, HTML, Java, and Ajax. XSS attackers can be very upsetting. However, improving the vulnerabilities that enables these attacks is relatively simple. Next is DNS spoofing. DNA spoofing is a type of computer security hacking whereby a data is introduced into a DNS resolver's cache affecting the name server to return an incorrect IP address, diverting traffic to attackers' computers or any other's computer. The DNS spoofing attacks can go on for a long period of time without being detected and can root serious security issues. Next is session hijacking. It is a security attacks on a user session over a protected networks. Web application creates cookies to store the state and user sessions. By stealing the cookies, and attackers can have access to all of the user's data. Next is brute force. It is a type of attacks which use the trial and error method. This attacks generates a large number of guesses and validates them to obtain actual data like user password and personal identification number. These attacks may be used by criminals to crack encrypted data or by security analysts to test an organization network security. Next is denial of service. It is an attack which meant to make a server or network resource unavailable to the user. It accomplishes this by flooding the target with traffic or sending it information that triggers a crash. It uses the signal system and single internet connection to attack a server. It can be classified into the following. First is volume-based attacks, means its goal is to saturate the bandwidth of the attack side and is measured in bits per seconds. Second is protocol attacks, means it consumes actual server resource and is measured in a packets. Third is application layer attacks, means its goal is to crash the web server and is measured in a request per second. Now, next is dictionary attacks. These types of attacks store the list of commonly used password and validates them to get original password. Next is URL interpretation. It is a types of attacks where we can change the certain parts of URL and one can make a website server to deliver web pages for which he or she is not authorized to browse. Next is file inclusion attacks. It is a types of attacks that allows an attackers to access unauthorized or essential file which is available on the web server or to execute malicious files on the web server by making use of the include fundamentals or functionalities. Next is man in middle attacks. It is a types of attacks that allows an attacker to intercept the connection between clients and server and acts as a bridge between them. Due to this, an attackers will be able to read, insert, and modify the data in the intercepts connection. Now, I explain next types of attacks is system-based attacks. These are the attacks which are intended to compromise a computer or a computer network. Some of the important system-based attacks are as follows. First is virus. It is a types of malicious software program that spread throughout the computer's files without the knowledge of a user. It is a self-replicating malicious computer programs that replicates by inserting copies of itself into other computer program when executed. It can also execute instructions that root harm to the systems. Next is worm. It is a type of malware whose primary function is to replicate itself to spread to uninfected computers. Its work same the computer virus. Worms are often originate from email attachment that appear to be from trusted senders. Next is Trojan horse. It is a malicious program that occurs unexpected change to computer settings and unusual activities, even when the computer should be idle. It is misleading the user of its trust intent. It appears to be a normal application, but when opens or executes some malicious code will run in the background. Next is backdoors. It is a method that bypasses the normal authentication process. A developer may create a backdoors so that an application or operating system can be accessed for troubleshooting or other purpose. Next is bots. A bot, short from the robots, is an automated process that interacts with other network services. Some bots program can automatically, while others only execute commands when they receive specific input. Common example of bots program are the carousels or crawlers, chat rooms, bots, and malicious bots. Now I explain other types of cyber attack threats. First is distributed denial of service, or we can say DDoS attacks. Denial of service or DDoS aims at shutting down a network or service, affecting it to be inaccessible to its intended user. The attackers accomplish this mission by overwhelming the target with traffic or flooding it with information that triggers a crash. In both situations, the DOS attacks deny legitimate users such as employee, account holders, and members of the resource or service they expected. DDoS attacks are often target the web servers of high-profile organizations such as trade organization and government, media companies, commerce, and banking. Although these attacks don't result in a loss or theft of dynamic information or other assets, they can cost a victim loss of money and time to mitigate. DDoS is often used in combination to distract from other networks attacks. Next is password attack. A password attack simply means an attempt to decrypt or obtain a user's password with legal intention. Crackers can use password sniffers, dictionary attacks, and cracking program in password attacks. There are few defense mechanisms against password attacks, but usually the randomly is in culture a password policy that include a minimum length, frequent changes, and unorganizable word or unorganized alphabets. Password attacks are often carried out by recovering password stored or exported through a computer system. The password recovery is usually done by continuously guessing the password through a computer algorithm. The computer tries several combinations until it successfully discovers the password. Next is Eavesdrop attacks. Eavesdropping attacks start with the interception of network traffic and eavesdrop breach, also known as spoofing or sniffing, in a network security. Attacks when an individual tries to steal the informations that smartphone, computer, and other digital device send or receive. These hacks capitalize on unsecure network transmission to access the data being transmitted. Eavesdrop is challenging to detect since it doesn't cause abnormal data transmission. These attackers targets weekend transaction or transmission between the clients and server that enables the attackers to receive network transmissions. And attackers can install network monitors such as sniffers on a server or computer to perform an eavesdrop attacks and intercepts data as it is being transmitted. Any device within the transmitting and receiving network is a vulnerabilities points, including the terminal and initial device themselves. One way to protect against these attacks is knowing what devices are connected to a particular network and what software is run on this device. Next is birthday attacks. The birthday attacks is a statistical phenomena or statistical phenomena that simplifies the brute force of one-way confusion. It is based on the birthday paradox that states that for a 50% chance that someone share your birthday in any room, you need 253 individuals in the room. However, for a chance higher than 50%, you only require 23 people. This probability works because this match depends on pairs. If you chance yourself as a one of the pairs, you only need 253 people to the get required numbers of 253 pairs. However, if you just need match that don't include you, you don't need only the needs of 23 pupils to create 253 pairs where cross-matching with each other. Thus, the 253 is the number you need to acquire a 50% probability of a birthday match in a room. Now, next is brute force and dictionary networks attacks. Dictionary and brute force attacks are networking attacks whereby the attackers attempts to log into the user's accounts by systematically checking and trying all possible passwords until finding the correct one. The simplest method to attacks is through the front door since you must have a way of logging in. If you have a required credential, you can gain entry as a regular user without creating sufficient or suspicious logs needing an unpatched entry or trips IDs signatures. If you have a system's credential, your life is very simplified since attackers doesn't have these luxuries. The term brute force means overpowering the system through repetition. When hacking password, brute force require dictionary software that combines dictionary words with thousands of different variations. It is a slower and less glamorous process. This attack starts with simple letters such as A and then moves to full words such as no or snoofy. Brute force dictionary attacks can make 100 to 1000 attempts per minute. After several hours or days, brute force attacks can eventually crack any password. Brute force attacks repeats the importance of password-based practice, especially on critical resources such as network switches, routers, and servers. Next is insider threats. Not every network attack is performed by someone outside an organization. Inside attacks are malicious attacks performed on a computer system or network by an individual organized or authorized to access the system. Insiders that carry out these attacks have the edge over external attackers since they have authorized system access. They may also understand the system policy and network architecture. Furthermore, this is less security against insider attacks since most organizations focus on defecting against external attacks. Insider threats can affect all elements of computer security and range from injecting Trojan virus to stealing sensitive data from a network or system. The attackers may also affect the system availability by overloading the network or computer processing capacities or computer storage, resulting in system crash. Next is AI powered attacks. The concepts of a computer program learning by itself, building knowledge, and getting more sophisticated made by Skira. Artificial intelligence can be easily dismissed as another tech catchword. However, it is already being employed in everyday application through an algorithmic process referred to a machine learning. Machine learning software is aimed at training a computer to perform particular tasks on its own. They are taught to accomplish tasks by doing them rapidly while learning about certain problems that could hinder them. AI can be used to hack into many systems, including autonomous vehicles and drones, converting them into potential weapons. AI make cyber attacks such as identity theft, password cracking, and denial of service attacks automated, more powerful and efficient. It can also be used to kill or injure people, steal money, or root emotional harms. Large attacks can be as well as used to affect national securities, shut down hospitals, and cut power supplies to entire regions. So I hope you are understand all the attacks. So thank you friends watching this video. I hope you can understand the different types of attacks. Thank you.